I'm Azif from the center. So I'm a strong believer in the ideology that shared identity, such as maybe being Malaysian, has its roots in shared experience. How we share our lives with other people, other constituencies, and other ethnicities also gives us a sense of who we are in this time of place. So now, anchoring this back to education and the question of vernacular, right? And just how polarized education is now. I mean, all panelists acknowledge that there's international schools, which divides us among economic class. There is vernacular schools, which divides us among, whether we would like to believe or not, ethnic lines and language lines as well. And I'm wondering if we're going to create a sense of shared identity and shared experience, and create, or at least create a conception of a Malaysian that understands and knows other people beyond their own bubble, is there space for maybe a cultural component in curriculum, in education? And I'm thinking of it in terms of perhaps cultural exchange, for example, where different schools can have access to different students of different ethnicities and learn about each other, as opposed to the current curriculum, which is very heavily focused on Islamic civilization and a Malay-driven history and narrative. Because I think of all people, your late father will understand that we want an inclusive sense of history. We want an inclusive sense of shared nationness and identity. And I think that's sorely lacking, especially in learning about each other and each other's cultures. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Sorry, I have to choose one of the participants because we
either one of your choice would be great. Yeah.
Okay, maybe just one more question there and one more question from the guy and the yellow shirt and yours, and then I have to close. Yeah.
Hi, Salam Mesra, Adlan Abdul Razak from UiTM. My question is, just one day, if one day the government decided that we reduce the number of Islamic subjects in school, will you support that? And will you bring UMNO to support that, Sharia? And will DAP and MCA promote people to enter national school? No? Thank you.
You have a question, somebody?
Yes, hi. Hi, Andrew Pang. I'm a social entrepreneur. So the next election, the constituents' age will be lower to 18 years old, right? So today, these kids will be what, 14 years old? So in 4 years' time, they'll be 18. So what sort of mindset would these four political parties here, how are you capturing this crowd? Yeah? Yeah. Thanks.
Last one.
Hi, I'm Choi from KL Society. I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I don't believe that we should be telling people what they should be. Everyone here seems to think that you have to set the national narrative. You're telling us we should be thinkers. Why don't we let everyone think what they want to be? Let them run with the crowd. This is a global village. No? Everyone has a mind of their own. They want to be someone. They want to learn their own thing. Why are we forcing them these things upon them? Over to you.
Let's have concluding remarks that take into account the questions, and then we conclude. Because it's time, right? There's a time thing.
Okay, I'll try and do this quickly. So I'll take the question that was, I think, directed at me, to me, by the gentleman from UiTM. Sorry, lupa nama. So soalannya, if we kurangkan subjek Islam ataupun masa Islam dalam sekolah, adakah UMNO akan menyokong dan adakah DAP akan promote untuk masuk ke sekolah kebangsaan? So I think, like many things in this country, it's about how you position it. If you go and advertise and say we will reduce the Islamic content in the school, susah lah, because public tak suka, dan UMNO yang nak menang undi ni macam mana nak sokong? So a lot of things I think can be done a little more subtly, and it's also the sense of how do you make it, like I said just now, more national and more diverse, without necessarily showing that you're reducing one major component of the Malay identity, which is religion. So it depends how combative you want to be. If you are the kind of person who says, no, I want to win this argument, I want Malays to accept that you should have less religion in school, then you're not being entirely sincere about what your objectives are. If your objectives are to actually pull in more non-Malays into the national school system, then you find the most tactical way to get there. So again, how idealistic and combative you are versus what outcome you actually want to achieve. And I guess maybe that's a sense of my concluding remarks, right? We live in a situation or in a country that has had many compromises, and we have different ways and different ideas and different imaginations to go back to what I said from the start. What Bukit Bintang Foundation and people like us who think about nation building, I think what we have to decide and ask ourselves in our own occupations and roles in that bigger project is how much do we want to get to what outcomes? And if those outcomes are what drive you, again, consultant thinking, right? So working backwards, if that's the outcome you want to achieve, you think that's your gettable outcome within your lifetime, then what are the routes through which you can get there? Versus I start off almost inductively and say these are my first order principles, and whatever doesn't fit my first order principles, I'm not interested. So I would put myself in the first bracket, and as a person who's more outcome based, even though privately I have certain principles that I know sometimes I have to not necessarily bend, but not adhere to entirely if the best way to achieve the outcome is such. So I'm more outcome based, and the risk of being a bit too philosophical at the end, that's what I would persuade you to consider.
Senator, I think I'll go this way. Okay, we'll do this bounce game. If you can take in all various aspects.
Firstly, I'll answer your question about freedom, free to think, free to thought. Basically, we are so divided. That's why we need to find the middle ground. We need to build consensus. And that's where Barisan Nasional or Alliance come in the spirit of consensus, accommodation. It's not communal. You don't blame MCA or UMNO. Because if we do not start that way, today you may be polarized in a greater manner. So whether you see it or not, I'm not going to argue over it. But we are not in an anarchy situation. We need a structure. We need to be organized. Even among the community itself, we are so divided. The Malays, the Indians, the Chinese. That's why when we talk about organization, we need to have a certain leadership, certain direction, etc. Coming back to the voting under 18, above 18, I tell you, I have spoken to lawyers. You speak to them about basic political terminology, about upper house, lower house, Dewan Negara, Dewan Rakyat. Some of them cannot even comprehend or understand. And I was shocked. I cannot laugh. But I wanted to laugh. How can you be a practicing lawyer and you don't know? It goes to show that, especially the Chinese, we are so not apolitical. We're very proud to say I'm apolitical. Actually, but we are just basically, unlike the Malays, they know the political mechanism. They know the political instinct. They know what it's like to be a Malay. Many of us think that, the Malays are a very privileged race. I tell you, they are the most suppressed race in this country, in this system. Because everything is cannot. They are so governed in the person. So that is another way of looking. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, it is all about politics. The decision about opening up. Yeah, I didn't take a vote because I have my reservation on the 18 and above. We don't want another Brexit. We don't want people play up more. As we open up, basically, we have changed the political demography and the voting. It's all about Malays. That's why you see suddenly DAP is speaking political Malay language. Because the political reality. So I'm more worried about the system. I'm more worried about the political ecosystem. I'm more worried about how many of us. I say think. Because we must think deeper. We must think beyond. We cannot be following social media or headlines and say, I know more about politics than you. You UMNO and MCA. It's all your fault. It's so simplistic. Sad to say. I don't want to insult you. You have insulted me, but I'm not insulting you. So basically, politics is so complex. And Malaysian politics is very, very complicated. And I tell you, to be a Chinese leader is the worst. Malays, they are very organized, they are very structured, they have protocol, they know respect. To the Chinese, everyone knows better than the leaders. It's topsy-turvy. So, well, I think I've said enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last politician to speak before Prof. I would like to answer the easiest question here. Will DAP promote the Sekolah Kebangsaan? I think to answer it, I must correct the question, because DAP has never ever promote people to go into SJKC or SJKT. For us, it is by choice. If you think SK is a better choice, then you should go to SK. So it is eventually what we see today is a collective options made by the parents, including some of our, non-Chinese, non-Indian friends decided send their kids, if they can afford to, send their kids to international school. And I myself, although I have never been to Sekolah Kebangsaan, but I know many of them, I do reckon with, we need to improve the quality of our education. People are sending kids to SJKC not because of SJKC is the best school system or the best education, just because SK is going down the road. So it is not, something we should happy with. Chinese school or Tamil school should keep improving the qualities, because the next challenge would be we are competing directly with international school or private school. So those who can afford will send their kids into private school and get better education. And eventually we are facing the dilemma, just like United States, private schooling and public school. And that is a class issue there. And that is dangerous for Malaysia. So I wouldn't say that because of take out the Islamization or whatever, then DAP will promote, because we have never de-promoted. The issue is, can we make the quality of our education better, especially in SK, and eventually make XK the best school to attract parents, to attract children. That's the key issue. Not to downgrade other school system or take out whatever elements, but to make sure the school produce the best student. Then that is the way we promote, including the current government. So I agree with, what's your name? Azif, yeah. Your idea about shared experience, some cultural exchange. And ironically, I saw recently cultural exchange came advocate by the most racist group, Dongzong. Yeah, it's quite ironic. I know many people assume Dongzong is a racist group, but they arranged a cultural exchange camp recently together with another NGO, Ikram, is it? To bring together the students from Chinese school and also the Sekolah Menengah student all together and exchange their ideas. And we may encourage them to continue to do it. And I would like to respond to the gentleman's comment. DAP has been portrayed as a racist party. I wouldn't agree, because that is, unfortunately, the UMNO Barisan National Agenda. Because to win, sorry to say, because it is the political game, okay? So whoever wants to win the power in the country, you must occupy the middle. So you must make sure, you must rule out your opponent to occupy the middle. So you must make sure they go to extreme. And this is the game we have been playing. So if you want to get a mature politics in Malaysia, I will argue, none of us, regardless whether from opposition or government, should compete on the basis of siapa lebih jantan, or who is more Chinese, or who is more Malay, or who is more Indian than another one, to get away the communal politics. So to get away the communal politics, the last one I will round out is talk about the most complicated issue, the policy. It's difficult to talk about it because we used to simplify it. But when we want to draft the policy, it's difficult. How about housing policy? How about education policy? How many people can get in and how many people cannot? A lot of non-Malay students complain that they cannot get into university because that is the system is unfair or whatsoever, but eventually get down to the road is they don't have confidence on the system. So how to gain back the confidence of people on our institution and decrease the times we talk about certain ethnic interests, but talk about how we design policy. And that is what REFSA, the think tank I come from, doing it. We just had a discussion on youth employment because we won last election. We won last election, I would say, partly because of economic issue. And I would invite our friends from UMNO MCA, we should delve into the economic issue and prepare something solid for our country, for our next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, YB. To get away from communal politics, we should listen more to the elevated views of people like Professor Shad.
Thank you, yes. Yeah, to get away from racial politics, may I humbly suggest we should distinguish between racism and racial consciousness. Racism is the feeling or the desire to keep other people down, hatred for them. So, for example, this non-recognition of UEC is partly based on racism. On the other hand, it's all right to have a racial consciousness to try to bring up a community, but not necessarily your own. I may want to work for the Orang Asli. I may support the women's movement, which I do. So that's consciousness. So I think we should try to educate ourselves and others that it's perfectly all right to try to bring up a group that you wish to bring up, but you don't have to try to keep others down. That's racism. Secondly, I think the non-Malays should understand that social engineering, Article 153, whatever you want to call it, reverse discrimination, positive discrimination, has solid grounding in moral philosophy. It does. But of course, social engineering and protective discrimination should not be based entirely on race. It should be based on need. In India, there is, in the Constitution, protection for the scheduled castes. In the USA, during the Kennedy years, there was a lot of emphasis on affirmative action. So I think we should open up our hearts to this idea of social engineering, but it should be based on need, not just on race. Then finally, I want to say, I'm not pessimistic about this nation changing. I think we've all seen ups and downs. At the moment, there is a slide downward. History never moves in a single line like that, in a straight line. It goes in circles or in spirals. And I think NGOs and the young people can make a change. As a teacher, I want to tell you this. I have seen this change within the Malay community. There are a lot of people now questioning things that they never questioned before. So I think we have hope. We have hope. And we all, I think, can make a difference to present an alternative view of things. Because as far as I know, in the desert sometimes, a sand dune grows around a single blade of grass.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, sir.